people are building up those kind of illnesses over the years. So when they pop up, is most of the time after they are 45 years old, right? Which is at the height of their experience. You, as a ship owner or a ship manager, you invested the most into them, and then we take them off the vessel. That's not a good idea. We should keep those people on the vessel, monitor them, and make sure that they stay healthy and they take their pills every day, and we monitor their blood pressure every month. And then they can stay on the vessel to provide the experience that we invested in them and provide it to the younger people. Because if we don't, there is not an infinite number of officers that are standing there to step in. On the contrary, the ICS is telling us that by 2026, we will be 10,000 officers short. So we better make sure that the ones that we have are staying on board, I would say.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gosberg. Hello there, Shipping Podcast lover, and welcome to episode 224 of the Shipping Podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about the digital health solutions for the maritime industry that is now available. A while ago, I had the pleasure of speaking with Ronald Spithout, the Managing Director of OneHealth by VIKAND. And since he has got a background in the telecommunications industry, he knows so much more about connectivity and what is possible to do when you're working in a workplace which is not on land. I hope you will enjoy our conversation. This is a Ronald Spithout for you.
Every conversation matters.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Well, thank you, Lena. My name is Ronald Spithout. I'm Dutch, and I'm coming from the satellite distribution industry, where I've worked for a long time. I'm originally an engineer, but ended up in marketing, sales, and general management, serving the shipping industry for the last 25 years, I think.
How come that you started in the shipping industry, in the maritime industry?
Well, I'm from Rotterdam originally. And when I was studying as an electrical engineer, one of my holiday jobs was to work for a ship repair company in the harbor of Rotterdam. And they sent me out to all these big vessels whenever there was something that needed to be repaired or helped with. And that's what I did for all the holidays. And although I didn't become a sailor myself, I got an affinity with what is happening on board of the vessels and what can go wrong and what they are missing.
So that is how you picked up the bug. Because I believe that you are as passionate about this industry now as I am and everyone else I'm talking to.
Yes, I am. And it just proves that, I never escaped anymore. After a couple of endeavors with telecommunication companies, I ended up in the satellite industry where our majority of the customers were maritime. And it stayed like that. And I eventually ended up running the maritime business for Inmarsat for quite a few years. I retired from that 2 years ago, and I got the freedom to help companies that I like to do something meaningful for life on board and using technologies and insights to enhance welfare at sea. That's what I do for a living now.
Before we start to talk about that, I wanted to know the journey with connectivity and for ship owners, because when I started this 8 years ago, everyone said it's too expensive. It will never happen. We might get the ships connected, but nothing else. And especially not for the seafarer, because we don't want them on Facebook. Stupid arguments, but I want to hear your side of that.
Well, there are many questions in that one sentence from you now. But first of all, of course, providing connectivity at sea is progressive technology that evolved over the last 25 years. And where 25 years ago, it was a matter of, a technology that could provide you some data and voice, at low speeds by that time. It evolved together with what happened on shore in technology. And nowadays, there are so many operators that can provide you high-speed internet connectivity. And, well, with every launch of a new constellation, those possibilities went up to where we are today. So that's it. It's a matter of technology, the state of the technology, and the ability to get the satellites up to do their jobs. Yeah. On the other hand, you had a question about, well, should they have social media on board? And well, we can talk the rest of the day about that. But of course, the question is yes. People that go to sea, they would like to get as much as possible of their social life with them in whatever way or format. And connectivity is helping with that. And if you don't have it, right, it could build up all kind of stress and anxiety. If you have it in an intermittent way, that's even worse, I would say. So my answer is yes, they should all have it, and not only to browse the internet, but just get in touch with the rest of their social network at home. And well, they work for shifts, but outside of the shifts, everyone has a right on a proper social life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Regardless where you are.
As we do, who are not sailing.
No, correct. But yes, and especially nowadays with so many satellite operators and availability of bandwidth, there shouldn't be that question anymore, right?
No, I have seen some developments the last 8 years, but for a while there I thought, well, I think maybe the ship owners want to go into this machine to machine and exchanging data and all of that, and then maybe the rest will come along as well. Connectivity for the crew.
Yes.
But now I think maybe it's a little bit more than that. I think a ship owner or a manager who doesn't have connectivity on board the ship, they are not rated that high amongst crew.
Correct. And the crew has a choice, right? Where they go. And of course, they should take those vessels where the owners are taking care for them and using connectivity and technology to shape proper life on board.
And I also think that maybe, I mean, we are seeing new generations of both seafarers and ship owners, and they have been brought up with digital tools around them.
Yeah. Well, people are simply not prepared to leave everything behind for 6 months without connecting to them and just return after 6 months. That's not from today anymore, right?
No. Oh, I'm happy we agreed on that. So tell me a little bit about, you are the Managing Director of OneHealth by VIKAND. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, as we spoke a little bit before we started this podcast, I retired from Inmarsat 2 years ago, and I decided that I would engage with all kind of companies that are at least trying to endeavor to increase life at sea. In that context, I met Peter Hult, who is the owner and CEO of VIKAND, and they have the portfolio OneHealth. But VIKAND is a large healthcare company that is providing all kind of healthcare services in the cruise industry for years. They started probably 2008 or 9 already doing that. And when you go on a cruise, then it's more than likely that the doctor and the nurse and the medicines and the X-ray machine and whatever you encounter there is owned and operated by VIKAND. And well, you are Swedish, and Peter is Swedish as well. So he makes me believe that VIKAND means we can in Swedish.
That's true. I can confirm that.
Oh, you can confirm that. Okay. But so when we met, he said, wouldn't it be good if we could create together the digital equivalent of that doctor on board of the cruise vessel, but then for commercial maritime. And on a cruise vessel, you have many crew and many passengers. On a commercial maritime vessel, on average, you have 20, 25 crew. So you couldn't have a person on board just to take care for you medically. But we have created the digital equivalent of that, and that is what we call OneHealth. So I can tell you all about that, but that is in short what it actually is. It is the virtual doctor for commercial maritime.
So you will be the hero of all the captains on board ships then, because otherwise they are the doctor on board.
Well, yeah, I don't want to be a hero, but we definitely want to help the captain or the one who is in charge for this, because none of them are trained as a medic, right? And still, they have to make a lot of judgment calls whenever something happens, and that shouldn't be the case. And it builds up stress as well for the captains on board, right? So yeah, what we created is Peter likes to call that the equivalent of the 50s doctor. And I don't remember, I'm not old enough, but Peter claims that in the 50s, people had a house doctor, a doctor who knew you and your family and your father and your circumstances and where you came from. So that when he came, he knew already a lot because he is always the same person. And that is what we try to create. So the doctor that is assigned to a vessel keeps on calling the captain on a regular basis, talking about the circumstances on the vessel, whether he took medicines from the medical chest, whether there are issues that he wants to talk about with regard to mental circumstances of his crew or whatever. And of course, all within the guidance of privacy. But he is the doctor assistant to the captain, advising him on medical stuff on board. And that is the same person that you get online when you're using our application and you call the doctor, because that's what we did. We created an app that allows anyone to call the doctor from regardless where he is. And therefore we call it the digital equivalent. And that application that can run at the captain, like today you have to go to the captain if you are not well. But eventually it could also run on every iPhone on board if they want. What it does, it allows you to either get direct contact with a medical professional, or it allows you to make an appointment with one. And ironically, this is much better than what many people have on shore. Because if I'm calling my doctor, I have to wait for 3 days to get an appointment. But with this kind of digital equivalent, you could have that doctor straight away at your fingertips. And that is what we are building and preparing for the commercial maritime industry.
So you have a lot of doctors employed?
Yes.
Are they working from home or?
Well, many of them are working from all over the place. So we have our people in 44 countries. Remember, we are not a small company because we do this for ages. So we have a network of 1,500 medical professionals around 44 countries in the world. Our headquarters is in Florida. Our major operations is in the Philippines. But outside of that, there are 42 countries where our people are. And either you have a level of service where you are connected to the nearest doctor, or you have a level of service where you connected to your house doctor, which is always the same. So it's depending on the level of service that you take. But that is what OneHealth stands for.
So if I am a crew member and I get an appendicitis or something like that when I'm working, what happens then?
Well, so again, depending on whether your employer has chosen to have the application at the vessel command, or whether they have chosen to let everyone have the app, you hit the button, you're reaching VIKAND, and you get an analysis. The revolutionary stuff here is that it is an app that builds up a video connection, just like us. You see yourself and you see the doctor on the other side, which is a tremendous help because the doctor likes to see you. And, well, just seeing you is giving him much more information than just talking to you. And the app has been developed in such a way that it runs over very low bandwidth, because bandwidth, as we started the conversation, can still be patchy at sea. It can be low, it can be high. But this application is already setting up a video connection from 256 kilobits per second, which is very low because many of the vessels have a VSAT nowadays or something like that. And so the doctor can see you. And then he makes an analysis, and based on that, the rest happens. Then where we differ from anyone else is that doctor keeps on calling you back. So it's not a reactive type of healthcare service. It is a proactive kind of healthcare service. And that makes a lot of difference, Lena, because I will make an analogy, right? And it starts to sound strange in the beginning, but hear me out, right? Would you take an engine for a vessel, test it in the factory, then bolt it onto the vessel, and then just use it until it breaks down, and then you call the engineer? Nobody does that because it breaks down at times that you don't want it. You don't have the spare parts, you don't have the expertise, you don't have the engineer handy. So, what people do for technical assets is they do proactive maintenance, right? They make sure that it doesn't break down. Even the coffee machine gets such a treatment, right? Because you make sure that the coffee machine always works as the most critical application on board or in an office, right? But then, if you look at people, go to any ship manager and he will tell you that the crew is the most important asset that they have. But then think back about that engine. How do we deal with the crew? We test them medically before they go on board. And then, of course, we feed them and they work. But when they get sick, we call the doctor. Now, that's not so very different than how you would not treat an engine, right? So we better have a service that makes sure that the person doesn't get sick, that keeps them healthy. And there are three ways to look at health in that respect. You have all the physical parts, right, that you can measure. And you have all the mental sides of it that you, by the way, can also measure just by talking to people. And then you have the environment. And we know nowadays that the environment is having all kind of impacts on the mental state of people. It makes a lot of difference whether you have a lot of sunlight or not. It makes a lot of difference whether you are breathing clean air or not. And it makes a lot of difference whether you sleep well or not at all. All these kind of things are important. And all these kind of things can be, well, they can be monitored and managed actually. And if you do that, you're approaching your health from three ways. And our OneHealth portfolio is doing all three of them. So there's a physical aspect where a doctor, and we can monitor stuff. We are using technology to monitor or measure anything you can, like heart rate and blood pressure and whatever you need to, all the physical sides. We have mental awareness programs and webinars and content to make people aware of their circumstances and how they feel. And they can talk to us about how they feel. We are training the officers about how to recognize all kind of anxiety, depression, and whatever. And then we do all kind of stuff like biolighting and sleep monitoring and the likes of. And if you do all three together, then there's a good chance that you keep your people healthy rather than jumping in when it's already too late. And that is what OneHealth stands for.
There's so many questions now in my head. Can I use this when I'm at home, if I'm a crew member?
Well, yes, you could, but we are providing healthcare for the remote societies at sea. We are not a replacement for the national healthcare of the countries.
No, but I was thinking about that. Maybe I get a depression, which doesn't really, I don't let it take over me until I get home. And then I've been talking to someone whilst at sea. I felt like,
yeah, no, I think you can, but it depends on the contracts that the people have. Yeah.
And how have you been greeted, so to say, from the Seafarers community? Do they feel like, is there some question about integrity in this?
Of course. So we speak to ship managers and ship owners, and I think many of them agree with us that preventive maintenance and preventive healthcare in this case is by far the better way to do stuff. They always ask us, how is it possible that you are talking about this now and not 10 years ago, right? But that again is progressive technology and insight. So if you look at where we are today, satellite connectivity is everywhere. So connectivity, tick box, right? Then data communication up and down the vessel progressed as well. You can do things from the cloud and think client-based and whatever. Yes, tick box. Then there is knowledge about healthcare. A lot of the stuff that used to be life-threatening currently can be monitored and managed like a chronic disease. And also the link between environment and mental state is far more advanced by neuroscience. And then last but not least, most important is that everyone has a very high-powered processor in his pocket nowadays called an iPhone or another phone, right? And in the meantime, over the last 10 years, a whole industry developed around that phone, either in software terms that allowed us to develop that application, but also in hardware terms, all kind of wearables and hardware around it that allows you to monitor and measure stuff that you do to your body. But of course, there's integrity. We are a healthcare service. So what happens is between a client or a patient and the doctor, right? Not with me, with the doctor. And of course, we keep electronic medical records, but they are between the client and the doctor. The only thing that we can talk about on the fleet are general things. So indeed, we can talk about whether biolighting makes sense for the machine room, or we can talk about trainings that people should have to increase state of mind, right? But what happens between the patient and the doctor is between the patient and the doctor. That's no different than anywhere else.
I was just more thinking about where does all this data, where are they stored? You know, I'm on that one. I'm on the GDPR thing now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. No, yes, that's what we are talking about. GDPR, HIPAA, and the likes of. Of course, like any medical service provider, we keep electronic medical records, but we are bound by the same rules about integrity and privacy, like any medical service provider in the world. That's no different.
So, what is the next step? What do you see in the future in this area?
Well, first of all, let's make sure that as much as possible, seafarers can get this kind of service on board. Because currently, we still see far too many circumstances where they only have a reactive emergency line, right? Or a reactive mental helpline, which is fine because at least it's something, but it is reactive. And people are still hesitating too long, right, before talking to a medical professional, and to such a state that it is often, well, too late and too advanced. And we would like to reap the benefits of early intervention by creating an intimate link with the people on board, so that we can catch up early warnings and things like that and deal with it. Right? And if you look at the maritime industry, there are about 2 million sailors. So let's try to get them into a healthcare service first, and then talk about progressive services that come after that. But this is just the starting point. Using those 5-6 technological advances, as I said, and deploy them on the vessels, that's now my first priority. So I'm speaking to ship managers every day. I'm speaking to parties that are, let's say, providing services of other kinds to ship owners and ship managers. And hopefully, in not too far future, all 2 million people have a proper healthcare provision on board. That's the very first priority.
How come this is what you decided to do once you retired?
Well, who knows how it comes. If I wouldn't have run into Peter Hult and we both would have the same interest in how to use technology to provide this kind of stuff, then maybe it would have taken another while. But this is how things go once in a while. And I like it. It's close to my heart. And well, Peter likes this as well because he's doing this for a living already for ages. But just never had the brains together from different angles, connectivity, software development, hardware development, to glue this into a service offering. And we started that about 3/4 of a year ago. Service is running. It is tested. People are testing it at sea. We have different ship owners and ship operators who said, give me that, I like to test it. That is happening as we speak. And I hope pretty soon we are on a massive rollout. But let's see.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
Well, why don't you invite me back half a year from now, and let's say where we are by then? Because for sure, this is a journey, right? So we are learning every day, because by doing this, we also get the effects of what does it mean that you have half an hour sleep more per day, right? What does it mean that you have biolighting in the engine room? And the effects of that we can simply measure. So we are learning every day. And of course, on the technology side, we are getting smarter. Making the application more slick is an ongoing process. So we are just at the start of the journey, and I would be more than happy to come back at a few months, half a year, maybe a year as well, and then show you where we are.
Looking forward to that then.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you have a role model growing up?
A role model? Oh, many. I don't know where to start. All through my career, I had coaches that supported me to think out of the box. And I always liked them, right? People that are not from my organization, but were senior enough to have seen a lot. And whichever job I had, right, I always made sure that they allowed me to have a coach that I could visit every month or second month to just talk about, well, what keeps me busy, right? And those together, those coaches are my role model. Therefore, when I left Inmarsat, I think, well, maybe I can do something like that. So I started to advise those startups and growing company and smaller company, because they're all young people that are very enthusiastic. And well, if I can provide them running into some pitfalls that I've been falling in the past, then that's already a good day. So yeah, many role models, but not one specific one, I think.
The reason for me asking is that I think it's important, and I also think I, and maybe you, have an obligation to be that coach or support to a younger person in our industry.
Yes.
Because it's not easy.
Yeah.
You need to talk to people who knows what you're talking about in a way.
But you know, Lena, therefore it is so important that we keep expertise in our industry. And I started saying that I have not been a sailor myself. I just have affinity with what happens at sea. But you know that more than 10,000 seafarers per year are losing their job just because of chronic illnesses are popping up. That could be hypertension or diabetes or whatever you build up through the years. And currently, in many cases, those people are actually not allowed to sail anymore, which is a shame. And therefore, I said, let's use technology to monitor those people and keep them on the job. 20% of the CEOs in this world onshore have hypertension. None of them are losing their job, and they are perfectly capable continuing what they are doing. So why would we take a captain from the vessel because he has such a kind of thing? Now, saying that is with what you asked me in the back of my mind. People are building up those kind of illnesses over the years. So when they pop up, is most of the time after they are 45 years old, right? Which is at the height of their experience. You, as a ship owner or a ship manager, you invested the most into them, and then we take them off the vessel. That's not a good idea. We should keep those people on the vessel, monitor them, and make sure that they stay healthy and they take their pills every day, and we monitor their blood pressure every month. And then they can stay on the vessel to provide the experience that we invested in them and provide it to the younger people. Because if we don't, there is not an infinite number of officers that are standing there to step in. On the contrary, the ICS is telling us that by 2026, we will be 10,000 officers short. So we better make sure that the ones that we have are staying on board, I would say, and not have a trade-off with experience on board, because that will just lead to more stress for the rest of the people. Eventually, it may even lead to more errors and accidents. if we have people there that are not experienced enough. So I'm a fighter for monitoring rather than excluding. And we took that as part of OneHealth. It's a big step, though, and a big debate. But potentially, there's no reason why we wouldn't. And there's nothing in technology nor in science that precludes us to do something like that. That is the next step, I would say, Lina, right? That we could talk about in years from now. Because if we could save those people on board of those vessels, it will be good for everyone, I guess.
I agree. I look forward to that.
Me too. Me too.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to me, Ronald.
It has been a pleasure. And hopefully we'll repeat at some point.
Yeah. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Every
conversation
matters.
Thank you, Ronald. It's very interesting. Best of luck with this new adventure of yours. Dear listener, I hope you celebrated World Maritime Day last week, because that's an opportunity to showcase the maritime industry to the world. However, when you think about it, and when I read about how it was celebrated, I think it was celebrated within the industry. I'm not sure that we reached out or invited people outside our own industry to participate. I'm not sure about that. Let me know if I'm wrong. Lately, I have attended the European Shipping Summit in Brussels. And I've also celebrated World Maritime Day here in Sweden with the Swedish Maritime Cluster. And there is a new tune everyone is singing. Everyone is talking about the fact that we need to raise the profile of shipping. We need to explain what we do in our industry, how we contribute to the society. And I think that the politicians now see the maritime industry as a strategic partner in the energy transition challenge, and so much more. We need to straighten our backs, feel proud, and act more confidently. When I hear this, I have to bite my tongue, not to shout out loud, "I told you so." I've been telling you this for more than 8 years. I mean, if you haven't picked up on anything else from listening to my podcast, you must have heard that I think that we need to talk about the maritime industry outside our own bubble. I mean, we need to shout out from the rooftops how much fun it is to work in the maritime industry. We need to get out of our comfort zone and stand there, be brave, and wave the flag for our industry, because we need the politicians to know what we are contributing with, and we need the next generation to come in here, get the bug, and also start working in the maritime industry. So please join me in telling the world how we can be part of the solution for the future. I need your support, and I think you need me and my experience. So if this sparks any ideas, drop me a line at hello@shippingpodcast.com, and we'll take it from there. That's all for today. There are so many things to do. So until the next time, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available, and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.